So now we're going to have a look at guitar tab. So first of all, what is guitar tab? Well, quite simply, guitar tab, or TAB in capital letters, tablature, it's quite simply a way for us guitarists to figure out how to do things like lead and things where it requires one note at a time, or riffs or scales, things like that that you've probably heard before, where you're playing a succession of notes and they're not necessarily playing chord shapes. Now, for most musical instruments, you can rely on the fact that you know how to read music. And luckily for guitarists, we don't necessarily need to know how to read music, which is a really cool thing, I think. Being not the best scholastic person in the world myself, I found it really, really cool to just learn this method of learning how to read tab. So tab's a really, really cool way for relaying information. It's kind of a map of how we play things. Okay, so how do we read tab? Quite simply, tab is made up of 6 lines. Now those 6 horizontal lines represent the strings on the guitar, just as my strings are here on the guitar. However, the string at the top of the page for you will be the small or thin string. So that's actually going to be this string. And the string at the bottom of that group of 6 strings is actually going to be the bass string. So if you think of notes being high as being the string here, and the notes being low as being the string here, so high as highest on those 6 strings will be that one, and the lowest on those 6 strings will be this string. Another way to think about it, and I find personally for me this is the best one for helping me, if I was to lie my guitar flat in front of me and look down on the guitar, that is how I would see the strings on the page. So in other words, if I was to lie this down, this string would be at the top of the page, this would be at the bottom of the page. Or at least in that line of tab, this string will be at the top of the tab, this one will be at the bottom of the tab. So what we need to do is look at our tab. We've got 6 lines. Basically, the line that you see at the top is going to be the thin string, the thin E string. Or you want to go to the line at the bottom, so the 6th line will be the low E string, which is the big, thick string you have. So simply we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Going from the top of the page, 1, 2, second one down, third one down, fourth one down, fifth one down, 6th string. Simple as that. So once we've got that, we need to look at the fret numbers. So the fret numbers are displayed simply by numbers landing on certain strings. And you'll see for the first example, what we're going to have is we're going to have this next example is done on the first string, so the bottom E string, which is the high E. Okay, so having a look on your page, you've got a 0. Now 0 means that we picked that string, but there's no fingers on it. Then we've got a 1 next to that, which means we put a finger on the first fret. So those are the fret numbers. So if something says 0, it means we picked that string, even though there's no fingers on it. Then the next note was a 1, first fret. Then the next note is a 2, and in this case I'm going to use my second finger to do that. If you want to do good technique with me, you can do that. If not, you can just go through the notes one at a time. The next note is a 3, the next note is a 4. And if I was to keep going, the next note would be written down as a 5, but we're just going to stick with the 4. Okay? So if I was to play that one after the other, I'd learn that as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the way we do that with tab when we learn things is in small sections. So you'd memorize a small section like that. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's do another example of that on a different string. You've got written out in front of you the same idea, but this time on the 6th string. And it looks like this. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's the same idea but on a different string. So what would we do now though if we had to say do some different strings? Well, let's do the next one, which is across the strings. We've got a 0 on our first string. Then we've got a 1, but it's written on the string above that. Can you see that? It's written on the 2nd string. Then on the 3rd string, there's a 2 written there. Then on the 4th string, there's a 3. Then on the 5th string, there's a 4. So if I was to play that one note after the other, it would be 0 on the first string, next string up there's a 1, then there's a 2, then a 3, then then a 4. Not pleasant to listen to, but it's just an idea for you to learn how to do that. So I hope you're doing this with me at the same time. The best way to learn is to do as I'm doing, so that way you'll find it'll go along a lot quicker. Don't just watch this lesson, watch it and get your guitar and play these things with me. One more time with that same exercise. 0, then this next string up, a 1, next string up 2, next string up 3, next string up 4. Pretty cool?